Hey everybody, this is Tyler Bell from the Westside Fairytales. How are you doing? I'm still trying to figure this thing out. If it's not painfully obvious, I got a new microphone, and I'm still messing around with it. It's a little bit different to use than what I'm used to. It's horizontal and stuff, so I've got it kind of poking me in the face here, like I'm standing at hip height with the Tin Man, but that's fine. But man, does that sound good? I don't know if you guys can. I don't know if if you're really picking up on it, but man, this mic sounds just amazing. Anyway, so welcome to another behind the story. I know I haven't done one of these in a little while, and I didn't do one for the mini-sode, which I kind of regret, and I just kicked the camera. Don't worry about that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do one for the mini-sode too as part of this same video, and that'll just be what I do. It would be dumb, I feel like, just to make two videos, and then I'd have to release them at the same time, or I'd have to push the other one back like a million years and pretend like I don't know that it's new or something. I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's not what I want to get into. Anyway, thanks for joining me. And if you're new to this, if you're new to the Patreon and you're just seeing one of these videos for the first time, every time I release an episode, as of when I started having a Patreon, I decided to start doing a sort of behind the story video just to talk about a little bit of like where my brain was at when I wrote what I wrote, and to elucidate some of the deeper connections into the West Side Fairy Tales. If you're not aware, the West Side Fairy Tales universe is a sprawling, interconnected thing. Every single story, no matter how bizarre or off kilter it is, all takes place in the same universe, because I like to think of stories as all being just chapters in one very, very large interconnected story that involves all of us. And this video is going to be getting light and dark randomly because I don't have automatic light adjustments on my camera, and there are clouds moving in front of and away from the sun today, so that's where we are. So the first one I want to talk about is the minisode, um, Lagunitas 4 a.m., which uh, it kind of came to me. Uh, I can't remember what I was watching, but I think it was Y tu mama también, and the movie's great, by the way. Mexican high cinema, un película grande. But anyway, it's got almost nothing to do with this story, but there was just like a throwaway line in it where they talk about these fishermen, this family of well, the dad's a fisherman and the mom is whatever, and they sell their land to like somebody so that guy can have like a private beach and surf or something like that. I think it's in that movie. It might have been something else. And just the idea of somebody having a private beach that they surf on alone all the time it kind of resonated with me, and I liked the thought of it. And I decided to kind of jump deeper into that, and from there, the idea of the guy who owned the place, a lonely old man type of person, coming out for his last surf, so to say. It grew from there, and obviously had to give him somebody to talk to a little bit so that we can know what the fuck was going on in his head. But yeah, that's kind of where that story came from, and I really like it. I wrote it over a short weekend, I think maybe like a year ago, maybe half a year ago. I can't remember, but basically, I had the idea for that story, and I was contacted. Yeah, it would have been half a year ago. I was contacted by the people from Evergreen Podcast, who what is it? They're a podcast, and they just kind of outsource and get other people to write episodes for them, and because they say everyone's got a story to tell, but I think also it's kind of hard to write stories every week. So, it's easier to kind of get other people to donate stories to them. And I was one of the first people they asked, I think, just because they ran into me on Reddit or something of the like, and they asked me to write one for them, and I didn't understand their process. For every story, they have a drawing where they draw 3 random topics, and then you write the story based off of that, which is actually easier than you'd think. I've always found prompt writing to be considerably easier than just having to generate shit in your mind. I mean, every good story starts with a prompt. If someone gives you 3 free ones, you're limited only by your imagination. I suppose that anyone who had trouble writing off of prompts is probably, you're probably a bad fucking writer. To be perfectly frank, it makes no sense. Whoever can't just have 3 things thrown at them and then just start juggling, like, dude, maybe you just aren't meant to be a clown. The fucking most asshole thing I said. If you're an aspiring writer and I just broke your heart, I'm sorry. I'm not changing what I said, but I'm sorry. But no, they gave me this sort of like these prompts, but they didn't actually give them to me. So I was kind of like, well, I'm writing on deadline and I've got all kinds of other shit to do. So I just kind of sat down and wrote this story because I already been kind of thinking about it. And I was like, oh, well, this prompt. And then I could kind of change it to be like really in the early morning and stuff because it was like 4 a.m. and something about surfing. I can't remember. I think it might have just been a body of water at 4 a.m. And I'd already been thinking about that story. So I was like, oh, that's fucking... It's perfect. So I wrote the story and I talked to the guy and he's like, oh, no, that's not how we do things here. So I fucking wrote that whole thing for nothing. And then they ended up giving me the actual prompts. And that ended up being a story I wrote for them that they actually aired because it was done correctly, called Best Left Forgotten, which I think I'm probably just going to put as a mini-sode next year because I fucking can. I didn't sign an NDA. They don't own that story. I do. So, yeah. Do whatever the fuck I want with the shit I write unless you pay me for it. And they did not. But anyway, dude, I sound like I'm being super negative to them. They're a wonderful podcast, Evergreen Podcast. Go check them out. Give them a look. Throw them $1 on their Patreon, or just give it to me. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of the entirety of that story. It's fairly short. It's kind of one of the main reasons I didn't really go into it and make a whole behind the story video for it. It just wouldn't be fairly extensive. Sometimes things are just in the universe and they don't really have much to do with anything. It's just you're just there. A lot of people just living their lives in America. In 1776, everybody did not fight in the Revolutionary War. Actually, most people technically did not. It's a small amount of people are usually ever in the war. Everyone else has to make fucking food. You still have police. There were people who were actually police officers during the 1776 war. There were police officers in Germany during the Nazi Germany that were like, I'm not all about being evil to the Jews. I'm trying to solve petty crimes. Dude, the universe is way, way less simple than people like to pretend it is. Anyway. Talk about informal. This is like one of those Jordan Peterson videos where he just sits down and rambles at a fucking computer screen. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. He just squints at people. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, that's just an amazing question. I think that bears some repetition, of course, in our modern age. I'm sorry. Anyway, but quarterly review, man, I fucking love that story. I loved it when I thought of it. I loved it the whole time I was writing it. And I could say that it's one of my kids. I love my kids. Not all of them, though. Some of them I don't like. Which ones? Maybe 1 or 2 of my kids from season 1. But I still love them. I have a begrudging love for them. But no, quarterly review, man, that came on me like fire, dude. I think the original image I had was just a Japanese salaryman. And if you don't know what a salaryman is, I didn't explain it in the book, because there's no reason you would ever explain what a salaryman is if you're in Japan, because they all fucking know. It's basically what we would call a yuppie, although they're not really yuppies. You're basically just a dude that goes to work and does like a sort of middle management level type job. You literally live for your salary. You're a salary man. You're on salary. You get paid every year, and usually they kind of all just generally wear dark colored suits and dark ties, and they're very very prim proper, conservative type dudes. You know, accountants, uh, math, other math things, actuaries, insurance adjusters, and all sorts of things like that. And that's what a salary man is. I wonder if this is going to sound. This is also me practicing using this mic, because this is the first thing I have recorded with it. Since I got it, it was not cheap, but I think it's going to be a little bit better when we get into the podcast. Yeah. Okay, but no. So I just had this vision of a salary man sitting at his desk, just kind of like losing his mind, and then like I followed him through his day in my head, and he was just getting on and off the train, and he just had this dull, bleak look in his eyes, and then kind of at the end of my daydream, he just goes, and just black shit just comes out of his nose and mouth, and just through his fingers, and then he like looks at a lady. And I was also thinking about what it would be like to see somebody, because if you didn't know this, particularly in a lot of East Asian countries, but especially in Japan, it's very crowded, and pathogens can spread extremely easily because you're just always in close proximity to people, especially if you live in a city, because it's so tight. So it's considered a measure of politeness if you even feel a little bit sick to wear a surgical mask, which is, if you ever watch any movies that take place over there, you'll fairly frequently see people wearing surgical masks in the background. And I was just in conjunction with this, I was like, oh man, what if you fucking saw somebody take one of those off and there was just some shit behind it? How great would that be? And I mean, that's probably been done before. It's such a good idea. How could you fucking not do it? Especially if you live in Japan. So I'm pretty sure it'd be easy to go online and just look up something, and there's just weird shit. An insect mouth. But the cool thing is you're unlimited in your possibilities of what's behind the mask. And that's the big reveal at the end. And I like the thought of a guy walking around just oozing shit through this mask, just little splotches that are just spreading. And so yeah, I wrote quarterly review, and actually before I even wrote quarterly review, I wrote, and obviously spoilers, I should have said it earlier, spoilers for everything. In the behind the stories videos, it's just a full spoiler video. I'll write something or something at the beginning of the video. But anyway, yeah, so I wrote this character, and you may notice that he's been walking around and he's just has a terrible cough the entire time. And that may remind you of another story from season 2, The Gap on Gable Street. And I won't go any more into that. I'll let you draw the conclusions on your own, because I don't want to ruin it shit for you. But let's just say this isn't technically the first we've heard of Jinichiro Sato, and it won't be the last you see of him or his ilk. Obviously, the doors make a return to the point where I can just very, very firmly say steel doors with alphanumeric lettering on them are important in my universe. Extremely so, getting into certain periods of human development. But yeah, other than that, I really just loved this story. I've always found people ruining their lives to improve their lives to be a fascinating concept. I know tons of people who are like that. It's especially prevalent kind of where I come from, which is lower middle class. There's people that are just either ruining their lives to have fun, or just ruining their lives to improve their lives. Everywhere. And it's kind of hard to explain, but basically people get so caught up in succeeding that their health fails, people begin to hate them because they're awful to be around, and they just they don't increase the value of their actual life to any degree. And that's not to say that hard work is a bad thing. It's absolutely not. I'm a fucking hard ass worker myself, and I get a lot of print down on the page, son. So hard work is very important, but also, uh, I would say equally hard levels of relaxation at points, and just doing something that's not grinding. Because people like to talk shit about grinding and stuff, but I'm on that grind. I'm on that grind to making myself better. But dude, fuck, that shit will kill you. It will fuck your health up. It will fucking ruin your relationships, or just put you in a point where you can't make them, especially if you're a dude. I don't know. And it's not to say that women don't ruin their own relationships, striving overly hard in the workplace, but there's just something about men that really push themselves in their career fields where they start gradually stripping away their own humanity and their ability to interact with people outside of other workers, and particularly other workers that are as driven as them. And you'll run into these people, especially on middle and low level areas. uh you'll see a few hard charger workers. It's like, oh dude, you're exasperating. No one cares how hard you work. It's fucking exasperating being around you. We're not going to get paid anymore if we work harder. We're not even going to get promoted. Maybe you will because you care enough and you're going to kiss enough ass to get ahead. And that's a pain in the ass to deal with. But then when you get up into the higher levels of stuff, which I've kind of been in and been around, you see these guys, they coalesce and they start forming their little social groups. That's how you get these CEO people that are just absolute degenerates, despite how conservative they seem, because they only exist to further their own work interests, and as long as anything is furthering their work interests, they will approve of it. And it's this insane excuse that you hear all the time. I have a fiscal responsibility to the company, as though that permits just the most obscene behavior. And I'm not just talking about like hookers and drugs and stuff like that, although that does seem to run rampant in those circles. I think just people want to be powerful so they can do whatever they want to do, even if that hurts people. But even more so, just making unethical business decisions, you know setting yourself up so that you can always grab the power in an absolute way every time, and just spreading the tendrils of control out from your own perverted, essentially a human existence, so that everybody kind of has to fucking kowtow to you. Otherwise, you'll starve them to death by making it so that they can't work anymore. And that's the kind of guy that Junichiro is, even if he hasn't really realized it yet. Eh, If he hadn't turned into what he is at the end of that, which is oh fuck, I cannot remember the name of my gods for the life of me. Chaos is Idzuk. Yith is greed. The Witchum is natural order. And Havat is the forgotten god. And then the last one is the god of order, and I can never remember his name. Also, spoilers? Maybe? I don't know. There's some deep dive shit. They're called the Five. And yeah, you'll probably see a little bit of them coming up. You've seen symbols. Although the symbol in his case wasn't very explicit, and that's because Junichiro is in not a very modern time. You may have noticed that in certain areas they were using rubles as currency in Japan instead of yen, but in other places they were still using yen, which is telling about the future of the Westside Fairytales world. At least one of the parts of the future. There's a lot of future after today. There is all the possibilities of tomorrow, and the tomorrows and tomorrows that follow. And especially in the case of the Westside Fairytales, Junichiro is in what I would call period 2. We live in period 1, which is fairly large. I don't want to say what the names of the periods are because they do have names, but uh, we're in 1, he's in 2 very cleanly, along with most things. Then you've seen one story that's from what I would call probably like period 10 and one from period 4. Yeah. And these are almost 250 to 1,000 year epochs. That's how you say that. Epics. That's just a terrible, terrible Showtime derivative channel that no one, no one purposefully pays for, but they do get for free with Showtime. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I'm sorry, but yeah, there's some timeline stuff. I know no one's probably gonna watch 20 minutes into this video, but now that you have, oh, and man, that kind of stuff is gonna get really big next season, especially. And if I end up putting one of the books online just because I love you guys, and I'm getting my ass kicked right now, working for I work for Sword and Scale. I'll just say it right now. I don't write the normal podcast episodes, but I'm writing the shit out of some other stuff, and it's gonna be fucking tremendous. Then you'll see that next year. But anyway, yeah, I don't think there's too much more to talk about with Genichiro, other than he's just gross. I don't fucking like Genichiro Sato. I feel bad for not Kara at the end. I think that's one of the fun things about this, and I don't know if you pick up on it, but every single person that he runs into in that little world is all just very focused on work. They're all completely job focused, including the prostitute at the end that he kills. Her last thought isn't nobody wants to fuck an ugly girl because she enjoys sex and values herself based on her body. It's because she's not going to be able to fucking eat anymore because he ruined her ability to perform her job. He literally disabled her. In a world where I can say this is very safe to say there are basically no safety nets. But yeah, I think that's sufficient. And if you guys have any other questions, obviously always just reach out to me. WestsideFairytales@gmail.com. I'll get back to you because I love talking to you guys. And thanks everybody who's been leaving reviews, who's been commenting and sharing, especially who's been sharing the podcast out there in the world. Thanks to all our new Patreon supporters. Thanks, Mike from Sword and Scale. And thanks, Mindy Rister, who just became a $10 patron. I'm going to be sending your shit out soon. Hopefully you pop in to this video and you see me talking a little bit about some stuff and you enjoy it. If you sat around this long, stay tuned. Later in October, I'll probably make the announcement, but I'm going to be having a special giveaway sort of thing for my Patreon supporters. And also we are getting stickers. I ordered them today and they're going to be here in mid-October and I'll be sending them out automatically to the $10 subscribers. And I don't want to get into the details just yet because I'm hammering them all out, but a lot of you guys that are in the $1 and $5 categories will also be having access to some pretty cool stuff. And some of you people that have been in the $10 categories for a while, you will also have access to even cooler things. And probably by the end of this season, I'm going to be making some shirts. So, hey, if you like this video, share it and tell people fucking, hey, join the Westside Fairytales, you dingus, you goof. Join the Westside Fairytales and join us on Patreon and come join the fun. Become an official Westsider. Hit me up on Twitter. Tell me if you liked the video. Tell me if you hated it. And also, I'm going to be doing something later this month to probably coinciding with the mid-month update video where I'm going to be putting out a special podcast episode that has next to nothing to do with the actual podcast, and it's not going to be fiction, but it's just going to be me having a one of these loose, informal type talks, and it's going to be about literature, and I've been meaning to do it for a while, and I think you guys will like it, and if you hate it, I'll stop doing it, and I'll pull the fucking episode right off the internet. But that's it. I'm Tyler Bell. This is the Westside Fairytales behind the story video for Lagunitas 4 a.m. and quarterly review. I love you all, and until then, until next time, stay safe out there.